Hey everybody, Coach Abel here, and I am coming at you with a Research Matters segment that I think if you're from the fitness industry, this is going to blow your mind. If it doesn't blow your mind, then you're not paying attention. So let's get into it. Here's a study I found, and I'm going to label this: Are branched chain amino acids interfering with your quest for leanness? What you need to know. And if you're from the fitness industry, you haven't heard this before, trust me on that one. Here's a study that I found from 2017. We'll put this up on the screen for you. Restoration of metabolic health by decreased consumption of branched chain amino acids. That's from the Journal of Physiology, December 2017. And we'll put the link up there for you as well so you can find it and take a look at it. The link of the full article, we'll put that up there as I'm commenting. But look at how recent this is, 2017. It doesn't get much more recent than that. So really good to bring this to you. And the more I read it, the more I thought, wow, people in the fitness industry have not heard this before. So I'm going to we're going to put on the screen right now, we're just going to briefly scroll, not too quickly, through the whole study so you can see how long and thorough and extensive this study is. So we'll breathe through that while I'm talking here. And you'll also witness this study has a textbook size list of references and citations. So we'll scroll through them as well, just briefly while I'm talking. So as you can see, very detailed study, and the list of citations and references at the end also just as extensive, making this a pretty thorough Research Matters reliable piece of research. So if you really want to just read the abstract and the section below it, all you really need to know is there. So we'll put the abstract up there for you as well right now, and you can take a quick look at that. But why this research matters is I'm going to get into some talking points here, because the fitness industry is all about protein, and it's all about the branched chain amino acids. And what we're going to see here may have you saying WTH about that. So it's a very long and effective study, and I've highlighted and we'll discuss the most important talking points here so that we don't get bogged down and you don't get bogged down with the science speak and the academic jargon that goes on. We'll cut right to the chase as much as we can. And yes, this is an animal study, but these biochemical processes discussed are very similar. And when combined with other human studies that are mentioned in this particular piece of research, a pretty clear picture emerges. So let's get into it. Are branched chain amino acids interfering with your quest for physique transformation? I think you're going to be pretty shocked at what this research reveals. So the conclusion here from this particular study, this experiment: decreased consumption of branched chain amino acids improves metabolic health and much, much more, as we will see. Fat loss, weight loss, preservation of lean mass. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's just put that up there, that bold statement up there. Decreased consumption of branched chain amino acids improves metabolic health. So how does that, let's just get right into it. How does that speak to fitness industry promotion of adding even more branched chain amino acids to your diet via supplementation? We look on the supplement racks and we still see branched chain amino acids being sold in every supplement store, every vitamin shelf, every grocery store, every bodybuilding gym, etc., etc. Well, here's some facts from this research that the fitness industry may not know or just doesn't want you to know because it'll cut into their profits. So we're going to put the key points of this study, fascinating study to me. I can't say enough about it. We're going to put these on the screen as I mention them. But first, let me just say, few people, especially in the fitness industry, know that branched chain amino acid consumption is associated with insulin resistance, the main cause of type 2 diabetes in both rats and in humans. And you can see the references at the end of this study for human studies on that. And yet, amongst you, the consumer, carb intake is still continually blamed for the cause of type 2 diabetes and prediabetes, and so are saturated fats. So if you're in the fitness industry, you've likely never heard before that branched chain amino acid consumption is associated and correlates with insulin resistance. So let's get into it. Let's hit some key points from this study. And I'm going to throw some quotes. You can find them in the study. I'm quoting directly, but we'll throw them up on the screen one by one so you can follow along with me, and then you'll see how clear that picture is that emerges. So the first quote I want to throw up here from the study, this is from the abstract if you want to follow along. This study shows that reducing branched-chain amino acid consumption in the diet promotes rapid fat mass loss without calorie restriction in obese mice. Note the word rapid when it comes to fat loss. Very important. Not just rapid fat loss, but without caloric restriction. Very important. The next quote. So we'll give you time to let that sink in a little bit. The next quote here, selective reduction of dietary branched-chain amino acids also restores glucose tolerance and insulin sensitivity to obese mice, even as they continue to eat a high-fat, high-sugar diet. Wow, mind-blowing wowza stuff. That's freaking amazing, folks. If you're following along with me, the reduction of branched-chain amino acids, your sources of protein, restores glucose tolerance and insulin sensitivity, even as these mice were continually fed a high-fat, high-sugar diet. Wow. So it just goes to show you a different picture emerging than what you've come to believe about protein, and specifically about branched-chain amino acids being the god of amino acids. So let's move on to the next quote that I fancy from the abstract. A low branched-chain amino acid diet transiently induces FGF21, that's just the initials for fibroblast growth factor, and increases energy expenditure. So what this means in layman's terms, this means that consuming less branched-chain amino acids in the diet leads to burning more calories at rest, increased energy expenditure. Very important stuff. So what we see, most people who diet, as they diet and lose weight, they burn less energy as their metabolic compensation system kicks in. What happens here in a low branched-chain amino acid diet leads to increases in energy expenditure, burning more calories as they lose weight and preserve lean mass. So we'll move on from that one. This is already mind-blowing stuff if you're following along, folks, and it's a recent study, as I mentioned before. The next quote. We suggest that dietary protein quality may impact the effectiveness of weight loss diets. In layman's terms, more protein may actually be counterproductive to weight loss goals, especially if that protein is high in branched-chain amino acid content. On top of that, if you're trying to get not just weight loss, but a physique transformation, how often are you told to take in whey protein, high in branched-chain amino acids, and or supplement with branched-chain amino acids to preserve muscle? And that can interfere with your quest for weight loss, as we see in this quote. I'll say it again. I'm going to repeat a lot of this stuff because it's so mind-blowing. We suggest that dietary protein quality may impact the effectiveness of weight loss diets. Very, very important. Now I'm going to get to some highlights within the study. So some general highlights, some general points. We'll put this up on the screen as I discuss them. And these, again, are right from the study. So I'll quote, several recent studies have found that high protein consumption is correlated with insulin resistance, diabetes, and increased mortality in both mice and humans. So here's some studies there you can see from 2007, 2010, 2014. That's within the research. So high protein consumption correlated with insulin resistance, the cause of diabetes in both mice and humans. If you're from the fitness industry, you don't hear that too much when people are raving about paleo and keto and the rest of it. So conversely, low protein diets are associated with metabolic health and increased survival. And you can see the research there from 2014, and 2017, also very, very recent. So what we see here is so many people continue to believe that carbs are bad and not healthy. It's always carbs and or saturated fats that are the evil macronutrient empire. Yet it seems like protein is a factor in metabolic health and ill health. So let's read that quote again. Several recent studies have found that high protein consumption is correlated with insulin resistance, diabetes, and increased mortality in both mice and humans. Boom. Conversely, low protein diets are associated with metabolic health and increased survival. And one of the things I want to add here, now that I'm approaching, age 60 in a couple years, a year and a half, is that things switch. Things switch over. We concern ourselves a lot more with metabolic health and not risking ill health as we age, and we want to function better. We want to function optimally. So here's a suggestion for people over 50, physique after 50, that you got to look at this study and you got to question, if you're following a moderate to high protein diet, what that may be doing in terms of increased metabolic, compromising metabolism versus optimizing it, as well as what I'll get to in terms of fat loss and preservation of lean mass. But this goes against the grain of everything you've heard in the fitness industry, because like I said, right within that quote, low protein diets are associated with metabolic health and increased survival. So I'm going to move on now and move down, and hopefully you're following along. The next quote, right from the research, and a recent randomized control trial found that a low protein diet promotes leanness and decreases fasting blood glucose levels in humans, 2016. A low protein diet also promotes metabolic health in rodents, reducing the accumulation of white adipose tissue, which is just another word for fat, and increasing glucose tolerance and insulin sensitivity, which is so important to metabolic health, in animals fed a normal diet, as well as improving glucose homeostasis in mice fed a high-fat diet. And you can see the research that goes along with that. So let me translate that from academic speak for you in layman's terms. What we see here is a clear picture is emerging from the research. It's low protein diets that are beneficial for health, beneficial for weight loss, beneficial for fat loss, and sustainable weight control. And yet, in the developed countries, we continue to consume far more protein than is needed. And marketers, in particular, continue to extol the virtues of protein while downplaying carbohydrates. First thing that comes to mind for me is check out the Ensure commercials for examples of this. They turned the Ensure bottle into a muscle bodybuilder and talk about, how much protein it has and that it's only 1 gram of sugar. Well, what we're seeing here is that's marketing prowess. And again, it kind of goes against the research that's emerging, because it's really not about the higher protein intake. So let me go down, and here's some important stuff. I actually blew up to remind myself how important this is. I've blown up some of the font. So blood levels of branched chain amino acids correlate with insulin-resistant obesity and diabetes in humans and rodents. Mind-blowing stuff. Blood levels of branched chain amino acids correlate with insulin-resistant obesity and diabetes in humans and rodents. And there's a whack load of studies there, as you can see, all the way back to 1969, 2009, 2013, 2014, and 2017. I would say that's a pretty good bevy amount of research. Branched chain amino acid levels, I'm still quoting here from the research, also correlate well with outcomes in weight loss regimens, that's from 2012, and are reduced in both mice and humans consuming low protein diets. So again, that's from 2014, 2016. Again, what we're seeing here is a clear picture emerging about insulin resistance and obesity, type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes, and the protein influence on that. So if you're in the fitness industry, I bet you haven't heard this before, that it's branched chain amino acids that also correlate with insulin resistance, obesity, and overweight. So that doesn't bode too well for paleo and keto. And I'm not going to keep harping on that. Everyone knows how I feel and where I stand on that. But this research about levels of protein and branched chain amino acids in particular, boom. Mind-blowing wowza stuff. Let me move on to the next quote from the research. You can see this is extensive research, and you can see how much time I'm devoting to it, because I think it's that important to set a picture that you haven't heard before and that you need to consider. Next quote. We find that specifically reducing dietary branched chain amino acids is sufficient to promote weight normalization without caloric restriction in less than 4 weeks, primarily as a result of dramatic reduction in fat mass and improves metabolic health. reduction of dietary branched chain amino acids in the context of an otherwise Western diet, high fat, high sugar, transiently induces the energy balance, regulating hormone growth factor, and induces a sustained increase in energy expenditure. Our results suggest that specifically reducing dietary branched chain amino acids or treatment with pharmaceuticals that mimic that effect could be an effective and translatable intervention for promoting weight normalization, control of blood glucose, and overall metabolic health. So not only about losing weight, but sustainable weight control and normalizing that without it being a burden on you physically, mentally, emotionally, etc. So what they're finding here is that even with a Western diet, reducing branched chain amino acids has an effect that helps to normalize weight, balance weight, increases energy expenditure while you're losing fat, and normalizes metabolic function. That's pretty wild stuff, pretty important stuff. So keep in mind, this is still with rats, but nonetheless, notice the phrase without calorie restriction, and notice the word dramatic in the above in regards to reduction in fat and improved health. Note, energy balance is restored along with fat loss, and more sustained calories are burned at rest. In other words, not metabolic compromise, not metabolic downregulation, as is seen in most calorie deprivation diets, which is why those diets never work. So we can see again, let me just, the top of that quote, reducing dietary branched chain amino acids is sufficient to promote weight normalization without caloric restriction, primarily as a result of dramatic reduction in fat mass. They didn't say as a result of some weight loss or some loss in body fat. Dramatic reduction in body fat. Isn't that what people are seeking, to lean out? Well, maybe you've been getting the wrong message for years and years and years. So very, very important stuff. Now I'm going to get right to the experimental results. And again, look at how much time I'm devoting to this. So this is how important I think it is. So let's get back to the research. All diet-induced obesity mice lost weight when switched to normal calorie diet, whereas mice consuming a Western diet with or without supplemental branched chain amino acids continued to gain weight. Really no surprise there. Mice consuming diets in which branched chain amino acids are extra low, branched chain amino acids are all amino acids, extra low amino acids, were specifically reduced, lost weight very rapidly, shedding more than 25% of their body weight in 2 weeks before eventually stabilizing at a weight lower than mice never exposed to a Western diet. In contrast, diet-induced obesity mice switched to a normal calorie-controlled diet, which is what most of you try to practice when you want to lose weight and transform your body. In contrast, let me just say that again, diet-induced obesity mice switched to a normal calorie-controlled diet, normalized their weight more slowly over 2 additional months. Mice fed the extra-low branched chain amino acid or extra-low amino acid diets lost fat mass, including epididymal, white adipose tissue, and lean mass, with a net effect of greatly reduced body fat relative to mice switched to the controlled diet, as well as those remaining on a Western diet. And you can see the actual photos there, but I don't want to get too into that because you'll get bogged down with the academia of it. So very, very important here. Let's continue on with some of the findings. The dramatic, again, the word dramatic, the dramatic weight loss of mice consuming the extra low branched chain amino acid and extra low amino acid diets was not the result of decreased food consumption. Boom! Mind-blowing. So they weren't cutting calories to induce this effect. Indeed, the absolute caloric intake of mice consuming these diets was similar to that of mice switched to the normal calorie control diet and relative to their body weight. Now here's one, I just blew up this font. The caloric intake of mice on either the extra low branched chain amino acid or extra low amino acid diets was increased. All right, the caloric intake was increased. Low protein and low amino acid diets promote energy expenditure. There's the research, meaning you're burning more calories through activity and at rest. And then, although all mice switched to normal caloric diets had similar levels of activity, we observed increased energy expenditure in mice switched to the extra low amino acid diet. Boom. So you can go to a calorie controlled diet, right? And have increased levels of activity. But even then, when all things remained the same, those mice that were on low amino acid diets had increased energy expenditure. So they're burning off more calories than control groups who were fed branched chain amino acids and other amino acids. So it was the low protein diet that was the big difference. So, in other words, these mice on low protein diets were also expending more calories at rest. This conclusion has also been shown in humans and vegans burning more calories at rest in their sleep than non-vegans. I've talked about that before. I've produced that study before. So very, very important. So let's get back to the research. I'm loving this stuff. I hope you're staying tuned and loving it too. After 3 weeks, mice switched to extra low branched chain amino acids and extra low amino acid diets had improved glucose tolerance relative to all other groups, including mice never exposed to a Western diet, which was an effect that was sustained throughout the experiment. In contrast, supplementing a Western diet with branched chain amino acids resulted in worse glucose tolerance versus all other groups after 9 weeks. This is a wow factor to mention. In other words, the amino acid supplementation got in the way. It didn't help improve anything, it got in the way, producing worse glucose results, glucose tolerance. Diet-induced obesity mice that remained on a Western diet were insulin resistant. All mice placed on normal calorie diet showed improved insulin sensitivity relative to Western diet mice. That makes sense. With mice switched to an extra low amino acid diet showing improved insulin sensitivity relative to all groups. So as soon as you lowered their amino acid protein content, they started showing improvements in insulin sensitivity regardless of the diet they were on. So wow and more wow. I hope you're getting that. I hope it's sinking in. This is why I'm spending so much time on this, because it's really kind of groundbreaking actually. Diet-induced mice fed either Western diet controlled amino acid or Western diet high branched chain amino acid diets maintained or gained weight. So imagine your fitness expert telling you to go out and take whey protein for breakfast or after your workout, or supplement with branched chain amino acids. Let me say this again. Diet-induced obesity mice fed either the Western control amino acid diet or the Western diet with high branched chain amino acid diets. They either kept their weight the same, they stayed obese, or they gained even more weight. Whereas diet-induced obesity mice who were switched, still on the crappy Western diet, but low branched chain amino acid, or the Western diet with low overall amino acid diets, in other words, less protein, progressively lost weight for 3 weeks. Boom! Wow! The weight of mice fed a Western diet, low branched chain amino acid diet, then stabilized, matching the weight of control amino acid fed mice never exposed to a Western diet. Now I'm going to blow this up for you a bit. Mice fed the Western diet, low amino acid diet, continued to lose weight at a greatly reduced rate. The weight loss of these mice was primarily due to a dramatic decrease in fat mass, whereas lean mass was preserved. So a low amino acid diet preserved lean mass, and they kept losing fat mass. And this was not associated with decreased food consumption. Like I said again, this wasn't about cutting calories and deprivation and denial. Overall, the mice fed the Western diet, low branched chain amino acid diet, or Western diet, low amino acid diets had improved body composition with decreased fat. Wow. Let me say that again. Overall, the mice fed the Western diet, so still a crappy diet, with low branched chain amino acid content, or a Western diet with low overall amino acid in the diet, had improved body composition, leaner, better, with decreased fat levels. Wow. So all this stuff you've been hearing, that protein is the hero no matter what diet you're following, it's time to start questioning the rationale there. And so we look at this, even on a Western diet, once you start lowering the amounts of amino acid, lowering the protein, specifically branched chain amino acids, they lost fat, they gained muscle. Now here's why this research matters. This matters because if you're in the fitness industry, you're constantly told that without eating high enough protein, you'll lose muscle and slow down metabolism. And what we see in this study over and over again, and specifically in that above paragraph, is accelerated fat loss. Dramatic, words like dramatic were used, while preserving lean mass, body comp improvements, which is what everyone in the fitness industry is after, the kind of people I train. They don't want to just lose weight, they want to look better, leaner, more athletic, etc. So we see that while preserving lean mass, body comp improvements, all because of lowering protein content in the diet specifically, but not limited to branched chain amino acids, which in the fitness industry, the branched chain amino acids are the amino acid gods of the fitness and bodybuilding industry. That's why they sell supplement versions of it. That's why you're told to take whey protein. So the fitness industry tells you that you need protein, you even need extra protein, as well as branched chain amino acids for body recomposition. Well, this study shows over and over again that it's specifically protein and branched chain amino acids that get in the way of that very goal. And remember, this is still mice being fed a Western diet, a crappy diet. So whey protein powders, branched chain amino acids together actually can compromise your metabolism and sabotage your goals for body recomposition, weight loss, physique transformation, etc. So remember this heading from the research. Let's put it up there. Chronic consumption of a reduced branched chain amino acid Western diet increases energy expenditure independently of FGF21. So in other words, by reducing the branched chain amino acid content, even in a crappy diet, you burn off more calories. Let's go to the next. I'm just hammering you the important points of the research here. Mice fed diets with reduced levels of branched chain amino acids or reduced levels of all amino acids consumed around twice as many calories than mice fed a Western diet, control diet, amino acid diet. The increase is even greater when calculated relative to body weight. Hold on a second. What did that just say? Mice fed reduced branched chain amino acids or reduced levels of all amino acids, in other words, lower protein diet, consumed around twice as many calories than mice fed a control amino acid diet. This is more holy crap stuff. Are you paying attention? Let's review this again because it's wow. So not only are they burning more calories, they're eating more calories, they're having dramatic fat loss and the preserving lean body mass. How? Eating less branched chain amino acids and less overall amino acids, not more, contrary to fitness industry experts. And now this section of the research that I just quoted from also points out that higher carb intake with lower amino acid intake led to better metabolic efficiency and burning more calories at rest. Isn't that what you're after? Not diet by deprivation, not diet by excluding complete macronutrient groups to the point where hunger increases and metabolism gets compromised. So what we're seeing here let's just put some more research up there from the actual research. We determined that mice fed the Western diet, low branched chain amino acid diet, have a significant increase in energy expenditure for at least 20% of a 24-hour period, the most pronounced difference at night. Isn't that a nice benefit to have for dieting? So, wow, I'm said a lot. I get excited about this stuff, and I hope you're hearing it because it's very important. A lot of the people who switch to a whole food plant-based diet within several weeks, what do they have to do? They have to eat more. So this study is just reflecting that the mice, when you decrease their amino acid content, they ended up eating a lot more, so consumed around twice as many calories than mice fed a Western diet controlled amino acid diet. So that's pretty huge stuff. So let's get back to the research here. Hopefully you're loving this. Specifically reducing, here's more quote from the research, specifically reducing branched chain amino acids rapidly normalizes the weight of diet-induced obesity mice without caloric restriction, okay? Even in mice continuing to consume a Western diet, which is a crappy diet, promoting fat mass loss as well as rapid and dramatic improvement in glucose tolerance and insulin sensitivity. All of you should be screaming WTF right now. I mean, if you're not hearing this, you're not getting it. by specifically reducing the branched chain amino acids in mice that were made to be obese. Just doing that rapidly normalizes their weight without caloric restriction. And even in mice continuing to consume a crappy diet, still just by lowering their branched chain amino acids promoted fat loss as well as rapid and dramatic improvements in metabolic markers. This is huge. You got to be tuned in and you got to be open-minded and objective about this stuff. So more from the research. While there are likely multiple mechanisms underlying the metabolic benefits of a reduced branched chain amino acid diet, the improvements in glucose homeostasis we observe here are likely due in part to the weight loss and decreased adiposity resulting from increased energy expenditure. So what's that saying is weight loss, fat loss, and burning more calories as that is going on, whereas usually in the fitness and diet industry approach, what happens is weight loss, fat loss, you start burning less calories as your metabolism compensates for the lack of calories coming in. So again, they didn't even have to cut calories to produce this effect. Now, here's the big one. We find that branched chain supplementation actually increases liver triglyceride levels, something you're told is caused by carbs. Now, not all studies find this, and they were quick to point that out, but they found it in this particular study that supplementing branched chain amino acids increases triglyceride levels. Not what you want if you're concerned with overall health, metabolic health, and optimum health, metabolic optimization that leads to sustainable weight control. Almost done, folks, even though I'd rather not be. And let's get back to the research collectively. These results, collectively meaning other studies included, these results demonstrate that reducing dietary levels of all amino acids, or specifically reducing dietary levels of the 3 branched chain amino acids, leucine, isoleucine, and valine, can rapidly reverse the obesity and metabolic dysfunction resulting from consumption of a high-fat, high-sugar diet without requiring caloric restriction. Wow. Boom. Let's put that up there. This is right from the research. So this is why people who switch to a whole food plant-based diet end up leaning out so well and so easily from it. Look at the quote, rapidly reverse the obesity and metabolic dysfunction even when the diet is crap. So this is really important stuff. Lowering your protein intake and making the adjustment for those calories by increased carbs, whole food plant-based, actually results in what you're after the whole time. This is huge. I hope that this quote is still up there on the screen for you to see. So let me pause here to say this particular, let me get this little dig in here. The next time someone, if you're on a whole food plant-based diet, the next time someone challenges you with the lame question, where do you get your protein from? You can now realize what a moot question that is from the get-go. It's not about how much protein you're taking in. The higher the amino acid content, the more it can get in the way of interfering with your quest for leanness. And another reason whole food plant-based diet just seems to work so much more efficiently. Let's get back to the research. Almost done here. So here's another quote. While the direct applicability of our results to humans remains to be determined, of course, everything always starts with animal studies, the correlation of blood levels of branched chain amino acids with obesity and insulin resistance in humans is already well established. And you can see the research that they referenced there from 2009 and 2014. So they don't just make lame claims, they back it up with other research findings. And notice they said correlation of blood levels of branched chain amino acids with obesity and insulin resistance in humans. It's already well established. You don't hear that in the fitness industry. You hear about insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes and carbs are the bad guy, saturated fats. No one tells you that branched chain amino acids correlate with obesity and insulin resistance. As a matter of fact, you're told to take in more of it if you want to lean out and gain muscle. Wow. Finally, this is back to the research. Selective reduction of branched chain amino acids through the use of customized diet plans or branched chain amino acid free medical food or pharmaceuticals that mimic that effect by altering branched chain amino acid absorption may represent a translatable and sustainable approach to promote metabolic health and treat diabetes and obesity without reducing caloric intake. Lower your branched chain amino acids, keep your calories up. What happens? Sustainable weight control, normalizing of body weight, and you don't have to starve and deprive, etc., etc. Wow, holy crap, without reducing caloric intake, which likely makes this approach far more realistic and sustainable, which is why so many of my clients who have transitioned to a whole food plant-based diet do so well on it. Now, why this research matters? This is, after all, a Research Matters segment. Wow, well, this matters on so many levels, right? Insulin resistance, insulin sensitivity, and while it's well known that exercise increases insulin sensitivity, which is a good thing, that effect can be dulled or even canceled out if you're consuming and or supplementing with branched chain amino acids, whey protein, etc. That's huge. If you want to know where your stumbling blocks are and you're consuming all this stuff because you want to transform your physique, it may be those things that are getting in the way of you leaning out. This is huge. This is wow stuff. Obviously, the foods highest in branched chain amino acids are animal proteins, whey powders, etc., are the ones highest in leucine as well. But then people go out of their way to supplement with protein shakes and branched chain amino acids, etc., etc. On top of all this, your magic post-workout formulas and all the rest of it. But isn't the definition of insanity doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result? So the people who want to lose weight, lean out, but have struggled to do so in a sustainable way, but they won't go plant-based, even though every protein-based, animal flesh-inclusive diet they have ever tried has not taken them to their goal. Maybe everything laid out above is why, and people still don't want to hear it. So we see here that it may be protein that is not the hero in every diet strategy out there, but the anti-hero or maybe even the villain when it comes to healthy, sustainable body recomposition and an optimized metabolism. Wow, let's put that on the screen for you to see. It may actually be protein that is not the hero in every diet strategy out there, but the anti-hero or maybe even the villain when it comes to healthy, sustainable body recomposition and an optimized metabolism. And if lower protein and specifically lower branched chain amino acid intake is the solution while not cutting calories, then it makes sense that those calories will be made up by increasing carbohydrate intake. Double boom, double wowza, and that is very, very important. So what I want to do now is I just want to put the whole study up on the screen one more time and then briefly just scroll through the whole thing. So really, are branched chain amino acids interfering with your quest for leanness as we scroll through this study? Again, restoration of metabolic health is the name of the study by decreased consumption of branched chain amino acids from the Journal of Physiology in 2017. So recent. We're still scrolling here. We're showing you the references. Here's the thing. I get so many people who write me and say, well, I'm struggling with weight and I'm struggling with this and that, but I'm not willing to go whole food plant-based. And you know what, ironically enough, just before I prepared this video, I did a whole parody of the song I Will Do Anything by Meatloaf. I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. And I did a parody of I would do anything for lean, but I won't do that. In other words, people will try every diet except one that's whole food plant-based, more to the vegan side because that's a V word. And yet they still struggle and they're not willing to go that extra mile, even though they'll do anything to get lean. Well, will you? Because what this study shows is it could be the intake of too much protein that you don't need that's actually getting in the way, causing all kinds of metabolic compromise, insulin resistance, etc. And what we saw here was words like rapid and dramatic fat loss, weight loss without decreasing calories. So I can't say enough about this study. I don't know why people are so, I guess it's just ingrained and imprinted on their minds to not accept anything other than a protein-based diet. But what we see here is the times, they are a-changing. I hope this webinar wasn't too long for you, but maybe it's time to, as I did a couple years ago, sort of look at the emerging facts that aren't just vogue trends, what the emerging research says, and it may be overconsumption of amino acids, specific ones and non-specific ones, that is getting in the way of your physique transformation and weight loss goals. I can't say that enough. This study was, holy crap, important. Even though it is a rat study, they blended that in with lots of references and lots of human equivalents to make this something that you should be considering. And again, something you're not going to hear from the fitness industry on how branched chain amino acids and amino acids in general can get in the way and interfere with weight loss and sustainable metabolic health and optimized metabolism. But you heard it here. Hope it resonates with some of you. Let me know what you think below. Great study. Again, if you don't like academic stuff, just read the abstract in the section below that. I think that should be enough to pique your interest and get you scratching your head that maybe what you've heard all these years that you've been trying is exactly why you're not getting the results that you're after. So why not try a lower protein diet? And let's see what happens. So hopefully this was worth the time. It took me a long time to prepare this, a long time to present it. Hopefully it didn't bore everybody out there, but hopefully you'll also appreciate the efforts that I put in to bring this stuff to you, especially in light of recent personal attacks on me for other stuff that I post. But anyway, this can help a lot of people. If you're open-minded to it, consider a lower protein diet composition and watch what happens. I'll see you all in the next video.